everybody, welcome back to my August wrap up. Belated, of course it is, but here we go. I read 12 books in August, all physically, apart from this I read audibly as well as physically. Recently I've been going from worst to best, and I thought I would do the same for August. All of these have their own like TikTok reviews or joint reviews, and I haven't like fully done actual reviews for them yet, so check my like Goodreads and StoryGraph that are linked in the description below for those platforms, and when I like I'm in a better headspace, I've got a lot going on, I can like go back over and like write proper reviews for them and have like more of my thoughts and things. But anyway, let's go on with it and see how quickly I go. The worst book I read is Mammoth by Eva Balthazar. She's translated from Catalan by Julia Sanchez. This is the third in her triptych. Last year I read Permafrost, which is the first one, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. I think I gave it 4 stars. This one I'm probably going to give 2 stars, maybe 2.25. Yeah, it started out really well actually. I was underlining, and it's about a woman that is, I believe, unnamed, but she's a lesbian woman, and she is wanting to get pregnant and like have a child, and then she sort of like moves into like this country area away from the city of Barcelona, and she's like in like a little like town scape or so, I can't remember what the word is now, but like only like little farm area and things, and she's just like adapting to this sort of like country life, and she like meets like a shepherd, and that's sort of like what's going on. But then like into the book, about like there where I stopped like underlining, there's like this whole situation with cats and just like animal cruelty and animal death, and I just despise reading it so much, especially when it's not, you know, acknowledged that it is bad or any like repercussions from enacting this violence on innocent animals. It just makes me feel so sick, and I just really did not like this book. I didn't like how it went along. I really hated the main character, really. I felt for her at times, and I understood her, and like this sort of like want to like get away from like the fast-paced life and like that sort of like ideology, which I'm like, I see your sister, but like she was just so meh. And like the way that she goes about trying to get pregnant feels a little bit predatory at times as well, yeah, it was just a very like uncomfortable, unrewarding and unpleasant read, and I would not recommend this really at all. Similarly, the second last book I read was Boulder by Eva Balthazar, translated from Catalan by Julia Sanchez. This is the second in the triptych. This is following a woman that is on a like merchant ship in Chile, and she's like a cook on the ship, and she's like unnamed, but then afterwards she's given the name of Boulder by Samsa, who is this Icelandic woman that she meets like at the coastline, and they sort of like begin sort of like a love like sort of thing, and then Samsa tells that she's moving to Reykjavik in Iceland for a new job, so she just goes along with her, and a little bit after she says that she wants to have a child, but the main character like doesn't really want this life at all. She's never wanted to have a child, and like this sort of like settling down sort of attitude, but she does go along with it, and it's sort of like an exploration of like motherhood and like their relationship and like how it changes you in some sense. And yeah, I think like it had quite like a lot to say. Like similarly, like they are well written books, like very literary, and sort of the way it like deals with like humans' conditions and like the way we interact with people and like thoughts and feelings and stuff. But I just felt it was quite irritating, and like I didn't really get the sense that this was this all-consuming love, and like she really like wanted to be with this woman, and like why she was staying in a way, and like I just didn't really understand why she didn't just leave, why she didn't tell her about like how she was properly feeling. It was just frustrating really to read, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I can't remember what star rating. I'm probably gonna say maybe like a 3 or maybe a 2.75, maybe even a 2.5. I don't know. The more I've like gone on throughout the month, because I read this near the beginning, and I thought back on it, the more I've just been like, I didn't like that. I didn't like it. It irritated me, and it's sort of like I'm remembering. But yeah, some parts are good, and like I did like underline and like star and stuff some sections in it, if I can find one, like there. And I'm a little bit annoyed that I underlined like the whole triptych now, because I can't really like give them away, but maybe I might come back to them and see. But at the moment, nah, read Permafrost and probably end it there. But I do know a lot of people do love that triptych, so maybe I'm missing something, but I just didn't really like it. And in third worst, isn't really that bad. I think on average all of these stories in this collection came to about a 3 something. I'll probably put it at maybe I said 3.25 on StoryGraph, but it is Welsh Fairy Tales, Myths and Legends by Claire Thayers. It's basically just her reimagining these Welsh fairy tales, myths and legends, but a lot of the time the main character has changed to a child, because it is a children's book and it is aimed at children, and it is quite like fast paced and it's very like short, and you don't really get much like development within the stories. They're very quick, and yeah, that was really the only thing hindering it, and it was quite a big hindrance. But on the whole, it was quite good. Also, what is good with this collection, at the beginning they have if I can find it, like a guide to the Welsh pronunciation, so if you're like reading it to someone, like you can probably say it properly, and that's also like with like pronouncing the proper names and places that are in the actual stories as well. So yeah, I would recommend this. It's a really beautiful copy as well. They also have a Scottish and Irish version written by different authors, which I might check out. But yeah, that was that book. Then we have a couple that are all in between the sort of like 3 to 4 star range ish area. A lot of translated books this month, because August is Women in Translation month, so I did try to read more. I do read a lot of translated books anyway, but I can't remember the word now, but like consciously decided what I was reading. But yeah, the next I'm going to talk to you about is Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. This is translated from Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd. It's following an unnamed teenager in a school, or like a middle schooler, and he's 14 and he is getting like relentlessly bullied because he has a lazy eye, and then he starts getting these notes and starts talking and meeting up with Kojima, who is a fellow classmate, and she is getting bullied as well, and it's sort of about like their interactions and how like can a friendship or like anything really grow from them starting out at being in such a dark place. And the bullying in here is really, really like horrible and disgusting to read, and does make you like really angry and upset, and like you feel for these characters. Kawakami does like go in deep, like they like very many triggering topics for this book, and the way it sort of contrasts these horrific violent scenes of the bullying with their sort of like getting to know each other and, you know, just being normal people in some sense, is quite important. But I would say as the book goes along, it is only quite short, it does get quite like repetitive and a little bit frustrating as well, because not really that much is happening. You sort of like want to like tell them do this and that, but it's just a little bit like annoying, and I felt like more could have been done with the story and the characters and what it was trying to portray and show to the reader. So yeah, that's, I think I'm going to give it 3.25 stars. Then probably 3.5 stars we have is A Very Easy Death by Simone de Beauvoir. This is translated by Patrick O'Brien, and this Fitzcarraldo edition also has an introduction by Ali Smith that I read after reading the book. Yeah, I enjoyed this most. Well, it's hard to say I enjoyed it considering the topic, but it is very well written, and what it tries to do, I think it does do well. Earlier in the year I read Inseparables by de Beauvoir and absolutely adored it. It was so good. So I needed to read more by her. This is a non-fiction book. It's basically sort of acts as diary entries in some sense, from when she learns that her mother has had a fall, and then later learning that she has cancer, but they don't, her and her sister, I forgot her name, Pipette I believe, don't tell the mother, Francois, that she does have cancer and she's going to be dying, and it's sort of the lead up to her death. And yeah, I feel like it does try to say quite a lot, and it is ambitious for its size, but at the same time quite a lot of it does feel a little bit monotonous, and it's sort of saying the same thing. But I feel like the best parts was her examining the relationship with her mother and how that she sort of like pushed her back as she was a child and didn't really like let her do the things that she wanted to do, because that is sort of what happened to her own mother. And I feel like the exploration of that was really well done. But that is the topic of some of her other like auto-fiction or autobiography books, so I can't really fault it on that, because it is about her relationship with her mother dying. But yeah, maybe when I've experienced more of these same things, it might hit a bit more different and more harder, which hopefully will be a very long time in the future. But I feel like for someone that has done, you probably can get a little bit more connections with it. But yeah, would really recommend that. Then I have Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. It's just translated from Arabic by Elizabeth Jaquette. This I've sort of been putting off because was quite scared of it, if I'm being completely honest. I know the topic of it, and I read this like after reading some other like really heavy hitting books that I don't know why I did that to myself. But this is a very important read, but I just didn't particularly enjoy the experience of it, not necessarily just the content, but which is horrific, but like the writing style and the way it is portrayed to us. But it's basically split into two time frames. The first is in 1949, and these Israeli soldiers are in the Negev desert in southern Palestine near the border of Egypt, and they come across a group of Bedouin, like Palestinian people living there, basically kill them all apart from this young girl who they bring back and rape, and then essentially go out and murder her and like leave her in the sand. And then later is in the 70s, I want to say, and we're following a woman from Ramallah, and she like learns about this incident and is trying to understand like what is the minor details and like what is the story from the girl's perspective and what like fully went down, and it's sort of about like the way she's being policed in her own country, and she can't like access certain places because of the pass that she holds and like what zone it says she can go in. And she visits, sort of like tries to visit different museums and tries to retrace the steps that might have happened to the young woman, and also about like she has like these two maps, a modern map and sort of like an older one, and how like all these like Palestinian villages and like locations are sort of like not there anymore and they've disappeared, or it's just like the remnants of them, and how like the country is being like taken over. And yeah, I think it's obviously it's very powerful and there is a lot to say, and she does do a lot with the book, but the writing just feels so like there's a barrier between you and the reader, and it's very 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 flat, and it sort of like goes into all these details about like what's going on in the day, and it feels a little bit like diary entries, quite monotonous, but you're not really getting any like emotion or anything that's actually coming through from the page to us, and I sort of understand that that is the point of it, that is meant to, you know, just focus on these details and the way like so much is being stripped back from like her life and what is like the real storyline going on, but it just was quite frustrating, I would say. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like I definitely would like to give this another reread. It does like hit really hard though, and it did like make me feel physically sick at times, this book, like the way like it was just, yeah, very much trigger warnings for what goes on in here, but I would still really recommend it, and I do want to read more by the author and other Palestinian authors, and yeah, but I just, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. So 3.5 stars from me. Then we have a jump to 4.25 with translations by Brian Friel. I really, really enjoyed it. This is a play. I haven't read a play since ages ago. Well, I read like a monologue thing in like December, I believe, twice, Queers, which was exquisite. But I think the only play that I've read, like proper like play, was The Death of a Salesman, like in 2022, which I hated. But this was so good. It's basically following these characters that are in like a hedge school in the little townland of Ballybeg, an Irish speaking community in County Donegal in like Northern Ireland, and we're following these different characters, and the English have come to create a map of the region, and they want help in basically anglicising the names of the places, or sort of like getting someone to translate them and then turning it into something like simple and like not really the proper original name of what it was. And they're all like, oh, we're not doing this anywhere else in the empire, like Ireland is getting special treatment in a way. And I just thought it was so clever. What the best part of it is, it's not really a spoiler per se, but like they're all speaking, like it's written down in English, and if you had been watching the show, they would all be speaking English to you. But there's a part of the book when the English people come into the story, and they're all sort of like they're not understanding each other, and then it clicks to the reader or the watcher that the people actually living there are speaking Irish or Gaelic, and that was so like powerful. And I just feel like the way Friel like touches on topics in this book about sort of like language and like the dilution of language, and it's set like in 1833, and sort of like the way that is like impacted like modern day, yeah, I just thought it was really good, and I would love to give us a reread and read more by him. This from the Sunday Times, I think like really well rounds what the book is trying to do so well. It says it is his play that is the most deeply involved with Ireland, but also the most universal, and yeah, I think that is what it is. So recommend this. Would love to read more by him. Eagle-eyed among you would recognize that the lighting has changed. That's because I ran out of storage, and then I had to watch, well I didn't have to, but I wanted to watch the opening Women's Champions League game for Man City, and they won 5-0. Was on fire. So good. Can't wait for the second leg. Anywho, back to the books. The next best in that order is Straight Jacket, Overcoming Society's Legacy of Gay Shame by Matthew Todd. I started this at the beginning of June, but I just finished it in like the middle of August, I believe. This was one of my 2024 books, so it's one I really wanted to get to this year. And yeah, I enjoyed this quite a lot. Well, it's hard to say I actually enjoyed it considering the topics and what is discussed within it, but it is very well put forward to the reader. It makes sense. It's, you know, a breadth study, and it does achieve what Todd put out to do. Some parts like personal, like his own story and memoir-esque, but a lot of it is sort of like case studies in a sense, with a lot of other queer men that he's talked to about their lives growing up and dealing with different issues that affect the gay man in the contemporary age. It starts with sort of like bullying from like childhood, and like your parents in like school is sort of like made to feel like different and othered, and this like growing sense of shame that comes on you, and then goes through like to your adolescence in your adult life, and how like we deal with like mental health problems, addiction, drugs, sex, alcohol, food, and issues with like maintaining relationships, and ways we deal with our mental health and suicide, and also like the culture at the moment, and yeah, he definitely does go in depth. I think sometimes it was maybe a little bit too much, and like it's going over the same thing a couple of times is maybe a little bit unnecessary, but it is a great study, and it does like hit home at times. I wouldn't say that everything he talks about is applicable to everyone, or well, every gay man. That is what the focus is on, and he does make a note of this, that it isn't for every queer person. It is focused on gay men, and every gay man probably can relate to something he talks about, and it's good at like sort of like showing how like the shame comes on us, how we deal with these other problems, and then also how to get better with it. It was written in 2016 and revised with the afterword in 2018, and some things have like obviously changed since then. Some things have got better, some things have got worse, and some of the like issues impacting our community have divulged into other aspects, but still I would really recommend giving this a read. There's a lot to learn from it, and it's like made me feel seen at sometimes as well, so it might be one I might have to come back to, I don't know, but yeah, would recommend that. It's a 4.25 stars from me. Then we have Ghost, the Button House Archives by the, I think they're called They're There or They're Here, I'm not 100% sure. These are called The Six Idiots, these amazing people that do the show Ghost and like Horrible Histories and Yonderland and other programs and things, but this is basically archives, all from the different ghosts that inhabited Button House. I absolutely adore the show so much. It's one of my favorite shows ever. All the characters are so like unique, and like they have their good parts, they have some of their bad parts, but like they're so like real, and I just love them. It's so like wholesome, and it's funny and fun, but it's like emotional as well. Like the Christmas 2022, I think, that episode, like I can't even think about like getting emotional, but yeah, I would really recommend giving this a read and pick up, especially if you love the show. So basically it's like archive, so it's like it's hard to explain, but there's sort of like pictures, like diary entries, like newspaper clippings, sort of like records of stuff, and also let me try and find, oh, these are good. So like this is Kitty's one, and then basically Alison sort of asked her questions like where were you born, favorite drink, fondest memory, and different things like that. And there's one of these for all of the ghosts. And yeah, it's like full of so much in here. Some of the things are a little bit hard to fully read because it's written in sort of like old hand, like this for example, where you have to sort of like squint and get in close so I understand like fully what's going on, but it makes it like feel very real, and it was just a very enjoyable read, and it's something I needed at the time because of all the harder hitting books I was reading. But yeah, so recommend giving it a read. I think I'll probably give this about a 4.5 star rating. So good. So we have Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. I love this. I really love this. This is a book that is set in the 1990s in the small Irish village of Crossmore, and it's mostly following Lucy, who's 15 at the start, and then she does grow up in the book, and her relationships with her friends, and everyone in the town thinks that she should be with her childhood friend Martin, and that is sort of one relationship, but also she starts having feelings for, these are reciprocated by her friend Susanna, and it's sort of like this small town where all the women just grow up to be their mothers and all the boys grow up to be the fathers, and that's just basically what's done. There isn't really room for deviating from this norm, but obviously if she wants to be living as the person she is, which is a lesbian, how is she going to navigate this in small town 90s Ireland? And it's also about sort of like the religious pressure in a way, and sort of how like society makes you do certain things that you don't want to do, but it's sometimes easier to just go along with it. And yeah, some parts are a little bit annoying where I'm just like, oh god, I wish you would just do something else or talk and things like that. But yeah, it's really, really good. It's so like lyrical, and I wish I started like underlining it, because there would probably be so much in here. And it's just such a lovely all-consuming love between these two characters that you just want like the best things to happen to them, but also at the same time you can see that not really being the case because of the time. But yeah, so recommend this. I need to read more Irish literary books because I don't know why I haven't, because I know I love them. But yeah, so recommend. I would love to give this a reread. 4.75 stars from me. Ultimately, we have a book that I would not expect me to love so much. It is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. Oh, this was so damn cute. It was so cute. I read this because I started watching the first clippings of the reading vlog with Gabby, Gavin and Katie on Gavin's channel, and they sort of like interweave like the clips of their reactions, and from the first part I was like, this just sounds so cute. Like, it just sounds like it's not me at all. This is like a cozy horror fantasy romance in a way, and it's basically following Shisheshan, and she is a like monster creature that eats people, and she's like awoken from her like habitation by these guards like in her lair, and then she ends up like eating one of them, or like killing them, and the guy she kills was sent there to kill her and get her heart. Then she sort of like goes into the village. This is like all basically what's on the thing anyway, so I'm not going to tell you any spoilers. But she goes into the village, and then she sort of like has to flee because she's exposed as the monster, or the worm of Underlook, I believe she's called, by the villagers. And she gets like picked up by this other woman called Homily, and she sort of like puts her back together. She thinks she's a human by then, and Homily turns out to be the sister of the guy that she just killed and ate, and her whole family, the Warfires, are like coming to Underlook to track her down and kill her and get her heart, because that's what the mother wants, because apparently she put a curse on the Warfire family. But then Shisheshan's like, well, I never did no curse, like that's not me, I don't know what you're talking about. And that sort of like, so she's trying to like understand, and like is in the like hunter group trying to hunt herself down, but she is the monster herself, you know. And it was like a romance blossom between her and Homily. It's just the most cutest thing ever, and like it has sort of like Arrow Ace rep in some sense, like the way they don't particularly enjoy like the physical like touching and stuff that much, but like just like the love, but it's not like explicit, and it's just so damn cute. And also like Shisheshan is trying to be like a human, so she's trying to like understand like the human ways and mannerisms and what it is like to be a human, and she exposes like the real brutality of humanity at times, and how like she's like the monster, but like humans are doing monstrous things as well, and sometimes like they're worse, and it was just such a good like study, and it's just really interesting having the perspective from like the monster or like the villain of the story, and you do really like sort of want the good things to happen to her, because she isn't really the monster in the whole thing, if you know, I don't know. But yeah, this was quite gruesome at times, so I don't think it's a full 5 star. I'm probably at 4.75. Some parts was a little bit but it is like horrifically beautiful as well. And yeah, I don't know, it's a really like weird one to play. I would love to read more by him. Yeah, I love this. I really love this. So yeah, so recommend. And then finally, I found another 5 star. This was the 6th 5 star of the year. And I've been looking high and low, but I found one, and it is Hex by Jenny Fagan. This is so short, but it is packs such a punch, and it is just exquisite. The writing is amazing. The like storytelling, the emotion that like is put in you is just second to none. Basically it's following I forgot her name, Iris, yeah, that's right. And she is sort of like travels back in time from 2021 to 1591 to the cell of Gaelis Duncan on the previous night before she was going to be executed for being a witch, to like be with her for this final night. And she like learns about Gaelis's trial and like what was done to her and why she's in this situation. She's like a young girl at the moment. I think she's one of the first like women to be accused of being a witch in Scotland. Iris is there and she tells her like how throughout these so many hundreds of years the place of women and the things that are done to them and the lack of, you know, justice as well for these certain acts is still similar, the same in some ways. And it really hits home, and it's so like emotional, and I was literally like so close to crying. I think I probably did. And I was reading this whilst I was out, and it just makes you so like sick and angry, and just like how these things could have happened then. And although it's obviously not the same, like she was accused of being a witch and it's like just like small like little town and things, but the way like women are still abused, and the lack of repercussions for abusers, and also like she talks about like people like acts being committed by like police and things, like how that doesn't work if the ones that you're meant to be safe from are the ones that are committing crimes as well. And yeah, it just made you really think, and like it was packed such a punch, and yeah, it was just like so well put together. I need to read more in the Darkland Tales, which are like these Scottish writers going over like events from Scotland's past and like embellishing them. And Gaelis Duncan was a real person that was accused, and yeah, like this like has some like magical elements as well, which are maybe a little bit confusing at times, but like they do make sense as the book goes along, I would say. And just like the powerfulness really makes up for any misgivings I would have. So yeah, 100% recommend giving this book a read. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's all my wrap up. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I shall see you soon. Have a nice evening, morning, night, wherever you are in the world. Bye.